dress them down in public. I'll argue with you again soon, Canada. Good night.
The Debaters is created by Richard Side. This week's episode was produced by Nicole Callender, Chloe Edbrook, Dean Jenkinson, and Graham Clark. With continuity by Graham Clark, Diana Francis, and Gary Jones. Technical production by James Perella and Annie Kennedy. Story editing by Gary Jones. With special thanks to Katie Ellen Humphreys and David Pride. Executive producer of CBC Radio Comedy is Lee Pitts. And thanks to everyone at the Centennial Theatre in North Vancouver.
This is CBC Radio 1.
This is CBC News. At 12 o'clock, we're at +2 with cloudy skies over downtown Winnipeg. Good afternoon. I'm Matt Humphrey. The mayor of Winnipeg wants to reopen Portage and Main to pedestrians. Scott Gillingham says he wants to shut down the underground crossing and restore pedestrian access above ground by the summer of next year. That timeline would coincide with plans for a new transit route network. Gillingham says opening the intersection would be a practical alternative to fixing the membrane, which protects the underground corridor from the elements.
By acting now and taking what I believe is a thoughtful, practical approach to this infrastructure problem, we can save Winnipeggers nearly half a decade of traffic chaos. We can save tens of millions of dollars in future construction costs, and we can ensure the successful launch of the new transit network.
A new report to City Hall says those repairs would cost at least $73 million and create 4 to 5 years of traffic delays. Gillingham says he doesn't support that. At least 4 councillors support the mayor's plan. Gillingham knows some councillors may oppose it. Meanwhile, Transcona councillor Russ Wyatt is questioning why city planners wrote that new report and not city engineers.
It raises alarms and concerns that we would rush to judgment, that we would overturn a plebiscite decision made by the citizens of Winnipeg, not to open that intersection.
Portage and Main has been closed to pedestrians since 1979. A majority of Winnipeggers took part in a plebiscite in 2018 and voted to keep it that way. Not fair. That's what some Manitobans are calling new travel visa requirements for people from Mexico. Ottawa implemented the change yesterday in an attempt to stem the number of asylum seekers. But a local taqueria owner says the change means less time with family. Crystal Piper's children live in Mexico.
I'll see them less. Yes.
How does that make you feel?
Sad.
Because you probably miss them a lot.
Yes, I do. I do.
Canada has seen an influx of people seeking asylum from Mexico since the United States tightened its border. Piper says they are hard workers and contribute to the economy. The Supreme Court of Canada has issued a landmark decision on digital privacy. It has ruled police need to acquire a warrant to gain access to a suspect's IP address. That's the unique set of numbers that help identify who you are or where you are when you're online. Kate McKenna has the details.
The Supreme Court calls IP addresses digital breadcrumbs. They have the potential to disclose personal information about people's browsing history, reveal their identity, and track movements online. The majority determined that this constitutes a reasonable expectation of privacy, and as a result, they say that law enforcement would need a warrant in order to execute a search. This appears to be a major decision vision for privacy rights in Canada. But the Supreme Court is split on this. The disagreement was largely centered on whether an IP address is just an arbitrary set of numbers that can be changed by internet service providers at any time. The minority decision found that they were, and that on its own, an IP address doesn't really tell anyone anything about a person or their browsing habits. But the majority decision disagreed, saying that this is one piece of information that can be used to find out way more information about a person. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Today, Canada is remembering a former prime minister.
I always tried to do what I thought would be right for Canada in the long term, not what could be politically popular in the short term.
Brian Mulroney, prime minister from 1984 to 1993, died yesterday in Florida at the age of 84. Jean Charest served in Mulroney's cabinet in a variety of ministries. Here's how he remembered Mulroney.
He was a transformational prime minister for the country. You know, there are those who are transactional. He was transformational. He changed the country. He changed the country for the better. And he was a courageous leader. He led on issues like free trade that were very controversial, even things like the GST. Think of his record on the environment, which is extremely significant.
Charest would eventually take over the leadership of the Progressive Conservative Party, then leave federal politics to become the Liberal Premier of Quebec. Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Jordan are all calling for an independent investigation into this week's death of hundreds of Palestinians in Gaza City. At least 117 people were killed. Hundreds were injured as well after Israeli troops opened fire on a crowd waiting for the arrival of humanitarian aid trucks. Israel insists the shots were fired in self-defense and that many of the dead were trampled as they rushed toward the aid vehicles. The province has released its flood forecast for this spring. It's predicting a low to moderate risk of significant flooding. In a release, it says normal to below normal soil moisture at freeze-up and normal to well below normal winter precipitation has contributed to that prediction. The prediction of a low to moderate risk of significant flooding. The flooding risk is low for most rivers, including the Red, the Assiniboine, Souris. There's also a moderate risk of flooding in the Interlake. The province says it is not expecting to have to operate the Red River floodway this spring. The forecast is weather dependent and could change depending on spring melt. Looking at the forecast today, in Winnipeg, mainly sunny, a high of -2. We're expecting snow this weekend. In Brandon, a high of +2 and mainly sunny. In Dauphin, a mix of sun and cloud and a high of +1 with wind from the west. Right now, you're listening to CBC.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You are listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon, on the CBC Listen app, and also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Here's what's coming up on the show. Rural properties, especially ones that rely on ground wells, are at risk for having higher than normal radon levels. We're going to hear more coming up at around 12:15. Also, Saving the Strand Theatre. The theatre in Melita is seeing low attendance numbers, and now the owners are turning to the community for help. More after 12:30. But first up here on the show, Winnipeg's mayor has reopened the conversation about the future of Portage and Main. Since the iconic intersection of Portage and Main closed to pedestrians in 1979, it's become a hot-button political issue in Winnipeg. Since being elected, Mayor Scott Gillingham seemed content to keep it closed until today. He called a press conference this morning to explain why he's had a change of heart.
The reason we're here today is to talk about a new report that outlines the cost and construction timeline associated with repairing the waterproof membrane at Portage and Main, and how I think we should proceed with this issue. I appreciate that the media have not had a chance yet to go through the report in detail, and so I'll cover some of the highlights. As you may recall, the concourse at Portage and Main, and I'm speaking specifically about the city-owned portion that is located right under the intersection, was opened in 1979. It was part of a real estate deal that saw the construction of an office tower and a retail complex at the southwest corner. The agreement was in place for 40 years and has expired now. But the problem is, the infrastructure has expired as well. The waterproof membrane that keeps the concourse dry has been failing for a number of years. If you walk through there after a major rainstorm, you'll see where the water is leaking into the structure, and there's actually buckets on the ground all around to catch the water. We've reached the point where the membrane needs to be replaced. And as you'll see in the report that was posted today, that is a major undertaking. Repairing the membrane would require completely tearing up portage and main at street level in sections and would create traffic chaos in the downtown for 4 to 5 years. The cost is also a significant concern. Repairing the membrane and ensuring that the underground space meets accessibility standards would cost at least $73 million. And it could be much higher, depending on the condition of the concrete in the concourse. With that in mind, I cannot support the status quo as outlined in the administrative report. And I believe that for the benefit of commuters and businesses, residents and taxpayers, we need to pursue a more practical alternative. It's time to open Portage and Main to pedestrian traffic. And that is why I'll be working with Councillor Rollins to draft a motion that recommends the city open Portage and Main at grade to pedestrian crossings by the summer of 2025 to coincide with the launch of the new transit network. There'll be members of council, including members of the Executive Policy Committee, who will reject this approach. And I respect their view, and I understand why they oppose this decision. And people will say, well, what about the plebiscite? That's a fair question. But there's a lot that has changed in the past 6 years. We have information today that we did not have in 2018, and I did not have during the election in 2022. We didn't know then that replacing the membrane would disrupt traffic for 4 to 5 years. We didn't know that it would cost $73 million. We didn't know that we were going to have a global pandemic that would permanently change commuting and work patterns. We didn't have the transit network design, which will actually help to improve traffic flow at the intersection. And I think if voters did have that information in 2018, I think they probably would have made a different choice. I know I would have. Traffic at Portage and Main is down more than 10% compared to before the pandemic. And as someone who passes through the intersection nearly every day, I can tell you that the peaks of rush hour have gone down as well. Many people are no longer working the traditional 9 to 5 workday. At the time of the plebiscite, Portage and Main was the 3rd busiest intersection in the city. It's now the 6th. It's not even the busiest intersection in the downtown. But in a city with more than 10,000 intersections, it's the only one that does not allow street level crossings. Folks, this is just an intersection. But over the years, it's consumed so much attention and so much energy. It's to the point of being distracting. So I think it's time we put this question to bed once and for all and move on to more important issues, like addressing homelessness, safety, housing, and improving commuting options for people throughout our entire city. Yes, I do think there'll be benefits to the downtown from opening Portage and Main. And I know we'll talk more about those in the coming weeks ahead as council debates this matter. But to be clear, I'm not saying that this move will save downtown. I'm not saying that this move will save Winnipeg. Again, it's an intersection. But by acting now and taking what I believe is a thoughtful, practical approach to this infrastructure problem, we can save Winnipeggers nearly half a decade of traffic chaos. We can save tens of millions of dollars in future construction costs, and we can ensure the successful launch of the new transit network.
That was Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham speaking at a press conference he called earlier today. Just as the conference was wrapping up, Transcona Councillor Russ Wyatt made an unexpected appearance at the podium.
I'm a member of council. I see they got members of council up there.
You can call your own news
No,
conference in the
I can just say a few comments.
Okay.
This is public domain. I would just like to say that I disagree. I disagree with the members of council who are here today, along with the mayor. I don't think the mayor has the right to undermine the voice and the will of the people who spoke loud and clear in the last plebiscite that we had, number one. Number two, the facts before us are clear. This was written by the planning department. Mr. Veach reports directly to Hazel Boris. Hazel Boris, the first thing she did when she was hired was to say she wants to open Portage and Main. Last time I checked, we did not elect Hazel Boris as the mayor. We elected Scott Gillingham. Number three, the mayor won with 27.5% of the vote. If he had been clear and open to the citizens of Winnipeg at the time of the last general election, he would have lost that election. It's very clear. I think it's crucial that council, these councillors up here who were just here before the citizens of Winnipeg, have no right to have the arrogance to say that their opinion is better and more important than the citizens of Winnipeg. We need to go back to the citizens of Winnipeg in another plebiscite, especially when you're deciding based on a report, not from engineers. When the mayor called me last night to tell me about this report, my recommendation to him was to get a second opinion. To get a second opinion. You go to a doctor, you get a second opinion. Buying a car, you get a second opinion. The mayor at that time did not even know who the engineers were. He did not know if it was done by in-house engineers or if it was a consulting firm. He did not know the actual details that he is making a decision on today. And frankly, I don't think that's being responsible or rational.
That was Transcona Councillor Russ Wyatt making an unexpected appearance at a press conference earlier today. He was speaking out against a new report to City Council that says repairing the membrane that protects the underground from the elements would create 4 to 5 years of traffic delays. It would also cost at least $73 million. You can read more about this story on both our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba as well as on the CBC News app.
Whether it's breaking news from around the world, across the country, or in your own hometown, it's all at your fingertips on the CBC News app. Get the top stories from where you live under the local tab, or watch video clips, live events, and the national on your smartphone or tablet. Get all the news you want, when you want it, where you want it, with the CBC News app. Download the app for free today.
It is 12:16 and you are listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 97.9 FM in Brandon on the CBC Listen app, and as well streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. We'll still ahead here. Rural properties, especially ones that rely on ground wells, are at risk for having higher than normal radon levels. We're going to talk to one of the authors of the recently published study coming up. Stay tuned for that. Let's talk about your forecast. So a couple things happening here. We have a snowfall warning in the north, looking at 10 to 15 centimeters of snow. So Gillam, Lynn Lake, Leaf Rapids, Flin Flon, Cranberry, Portage. Meanwhile, here in the south, special weather statement still in effect. This pretty much blankets the south. We're looking at a mix of anywhere between heavy snowfall amounts to rain, to freezing rain, strong winds. Yeah, a lot going on this weekend in the weather. But today here in Winnipeg, mainly sunny. High of 2 degrees, light wind out of the southwest. Tonight, partly cloudy and a low of -11. Tomorrow, increasing cloud in the afternoon, -6. Looks like that system starts to move into the Winnipeg, Red River Valley area Saturday night, a low of -6 then. Snow and blowing snow on Sunday and -1 in Winnipeg. Right now, Brandon, drifting snow, -1. Thompson, light snow and -17. And in Winnipeg, we're at our high, 2 degrees, mostly cloudy, south-southwest wind at 21. A recently published study has found that rural properties in Canada near ground wells are at risk of higher radon levels. The study was published on Monday in Scientific Reports. Radon is a harmful radioactive gas that has been linked to lung cancer. According to the province, historically, Manitoba has had higher radon levels compared to other provinces. Dr. Aaron Godarsi is the principal investigator of the study and also an associate professor at the University of Calgary's Cumming School of Medicine. Good afternoon.
Hello.
What did your study uncover about radon levels on rural properties, and in particular, its connection to ground wells?
Yeah, so for the past decade, really, researchers like myself across the world have noticed an interesting trend, which is that radioactive radon exposure in the indoor air of our houses has trended higher in more rural, meaning more sparsely populated communities. And when nobody really understood why that was. What we have done over the past 5 years, really, is through the Evict Radon National Study, wherein tens of thousands of Canadians have tested their properties for radon and agreed to give over the de-identified readings plus many details about their houses to us, the researchers, is we finally figured out what the culprit is. And it's two things. Higher rural radon effects are partially accounted for by the fact that rural communities just have different types of houses. You're going to find a lot more large bungalows in those communities than you might in a city. So that's part of it, because large bungalows are the perfect radon capture machine. But most of the effect is proximity and density of drilled groundwater wells to the home.
So what is it about the ground wells then that make these rural properties more prone to higher levels of radon?
Yeah, so we asked two questions. Was it the water or was it the well? The answer is it's not the water, so that's good. There was never enough radon in water to account for the excess amount of radon that we observed coming out into the air. Rather, what our geoscience teams were able to uncover was that the well itself, which is essentially a borehole drilled deep many tens of meters, up to 100 meters into the ground, into, of course, the aquifer where the water comes from, is sunk into the ground. It's drilled, and then you put a pipe down, basically. Now, there's a gap of air around that pipe that is, we think, operating as a path of least resistance for radon generated deep under the ground to travel much more readily to the surface, where it penetrates all of the soils underneath and around our properties, giving that much more radon for those little perfect radon capture machines, our houses, to concentrate it inside.
I want to talk a little bit more about radon. Here in Manitoba, a lot of us here are familiar, with what radon is. But for people who have never heard of it before, and there are some folks who are like, really, I should be concerned about it. What are the concerns around radon?
So radon, first of all, everyone should understand, is a radioactive gas. We're probably all more familiar with your sort of typical X-ray. You probably had one of those at the dentist, or if you've broken a rib or something like that. The type of radiation emitted by radon is alpha radiation. This is much closer to space radiation, and it's incredibly damaging to our DNA in a way that generates mutations that will drive our cells towards cancer. Radon is linked to lung cancer, and indeed is the second leading cause of all lung cancers in Canada, and the leading cause amongst people who do not smoke tobacco. It's preventable, it's easily testable, and what we're trying to do is encourage Canadians to learn about it, test for it, and if high, reduce it, because nobody needs, theoretically, to be diagnosed later in life with a lung cancer attributable to radon if it's so easily prevented. One of the things I'll emphasize is that right now in Canada, 40%, so 2 out of 5 patients who are diagnosed with lung cancer are not heavy or ever tobacco users. 1 out of 5 people never picked up a tobacco cigarette in their life. It's thought that a large number of these cases are attributable to radon gas exposure.
So in what you discovered, where are you finding the highest levels of radon being found in the country? Is there a particular region that you're finding levels are higher?
Radon in Canada, if you compare us to the rest of the world, we're easily in the top 5, if not the top 2 most radon exposed populations on this planet. Yes, there are some nuances in different regions and community types in Canada. Manitoba, I would add, is definitely amongst the highest. There'll be a new cross-Canada radon report coming out this fall, which will speak further to what we see. But across the entirety of the Canadian prairies, the Atlantic provinces, and the North, we're seeing radon at comparable levels, and it's all incredibly high. Amongst that, the cities can be high, but what we're finding in this study is that the rural communities of those regions are yet higher by as much as 30% in terms of levels.
So what should people do then when it comes to radon testing?
So it's a great question, and thankfully this is a problem with a good solution. Radon testing is relatively affordable and quite simple to do. Radon tests are widely available. The Evict Radon National Study, for example, is still allowing people to join the study and test through that. Many other organizations do the same thing. Many of these things just look like little ant traps or hockey pucks. Pop them open from their airtight bag, place them in the house at the lowest level of the property that people are spending more than 4 hours a day in. Wait 90 days, so 3 months or up to a year to capture the radon levels. You want to wait at least that long because radon can do a lot of fluctuating over the short term, and you don't want to capture when it's accidentally maybe too high or too low to reflect your annual average. And then you get your results back. And if your results are over a certain amount, so you start to see a cancer risk at 100 becquerels per cubic meter, that's the unit radon's measured in, and Health Canada advises all Canadians to take action anything at or above 200 becquerels per cubic meter, then you go looking for a radon reduction specialist. And again, thankfully, Canada has a robust, professional, certified radon reduction community. And these are folks that have CNRPP certification, Canadian National Radon Proficiency Program.
Are there solutions to fixing the problem in the house?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the solutions to radon are tried, tested, and proven. Canada, thankfully, our build codes over a long period of time now have engineered houses that make radon reductions far more effective and consistent relative to, say, Europe, for example, with a lot more of a diverse building portfolio. It's usually 1 to 2 days work in perhaps your utility room or your furnace room, somewhere in the basement. And levels, even a spectacularly high radon levels. I think in the Evict Radon National Study right now, you know, some of the highest houses we're seeing 30,000, 40,000, 100,000 becquerels per cubic meter houses. These can be mitigated. It's permanent solution to the house. You do not need to move out of your house. I always say, would you move out of your house if you have a broken window? Of course not. You fix the window.
Now, is there a solution that you think we could find or that we need in order to fight these radon levels?
Another tremendous question. One observation we had in a study a couple of years ago was that unfortunately in Canada, newer houses have higher radon. That's not true in other comparable nations such as Sweden. Swedish houses, newer ones, actually have far lower radon than they used to. In fact, if you look back in the 1950s, new Swedish houses at the time actually had higher radon than Canada. By the 80s, it was the same. And today, they have 467% lower radon than we do. It can be engineered out of new buildings. The 2025 Cross Canada Build Code is aiming to do that. Right now, I am aware that in the draft of that code, there are proactive radon reduction measures that, if implemented, would mean that every new Canadian property would have at least a passive radon reduction device installed within it at construction. That promises to, across the board, reduce levels by as much as perhaps 40%.
Dr. Aaron Godarcy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
That is Dr. Aaron Godarcy, the principal investigator of the study published this week in Scientific Reports and also an associate professor at the University of Calgary's Cumming School of Medicine. It is 12:27 now. Well, up next, the title track off Larissa Music's debut EP. This is Tomorrow's Bound to Come.
Someday I'll grow sunflower high. I'll show off my green and swing, paint and gold, everything. I'll shake dirt in winter time, root
That is tomorrow's Bound to Come by Larissa Music. Well, still ahead here on Radio Noon, the owners of the Strand Theatre in Melita are asking on social media what it can do to turn around low attendance numbers. We're going to hear more coming up. Stay with us. Your CBC Local News with Matt Humphrey is next.
This is CBC News. Thank you, Marjorie. At 12:30, we're at +3 with mostly clear, sunny skies over downtown Winnipeg. It's good to be with you this afternoon. Mayor Scott Gillingham wants to reopen Portage and Main to pedestrians and close the underground concourse. The CBC's Cameron McLean reports on the proposal, and it's already stirring up old divisions among members of City Council.
CBC News broke the story last night, but this morning Gillingham made it official. The mayor says it's time to put the debate over the intersection to rest, and keeping the underground concourse isn't feasible. A report says repairs would cost as much as $73 million and cause up to 5 years of traffic disruption. Gillingham says he has the support of council and rejected the idea of a second plebiscite. Voters in 2018 rejected the idea of reopening the intersection. After the news conference, Transcona councillor Russ Wyatt leapt to the podium. He criticized the mayor for going against the results of the vote, but City Hall staff cut his microphone. Council will make a decision next month. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The province has released its flood forecast for this spring, and it's predicting a low to moderate risk of significant flooding. In a release, it says normal to below normal soil moisture at freeze-up and normal to well below normal winter precipitation has contributed to that prediction. The flooding risk is low for most rivers, including the Red, the Assiniboine, Souris, and Qu'Appelle rivers. There is a moderate risk of flooding in the Interlake region. The province says it's not expecting to have to operate the Red River floodway this spring. The forecast is weather dependent and could change depending on spring melt. And finally, Brian Mulroney will receive a state funeral. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced the customary honour for Canada's 18th Prime Minister. Canadians will also get a chance to pay their respects. Tributes, meanwhile, pour in for Mulroney the day after news of his death. David Thurton has more.
Outside Parliament, the Canadian flag at half-mast. Inside the House of Commons,
Canada is in mourning.
Government House Leader Steve McKinnon moving to suspend proceedings after Brian Mulroney's death.
The House stands adjourned.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau confirming a state funeral.
We're working with the family closely to ensure that all of their wishes are respected and that it be the right and fitting tribute to him.
Close family friend Bonnie Brownlee is with the Mulroneys in Florida.
It's, a little bit of a shock. Brian had a fall. I had to go to the hospital and passed away yesterday.
Mulroney's successor, Kim Campbell, also on the news.
You look and you say, what was the legacy of this person and what did he leave? And I think it's something that he can be very proud of.
In addition to the funeral, Trudeau says Canadians will have opportunities to express their condolences. David Thurton, CBC News, Ottawa.
And that's your CBC News from Winnipeg.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Back soon.
That is Matt Humphrey with your CBC Local News Update. 12:33, you're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. 89.3 FM in Winnipeg, 990 AM and everywhere on the CBC Listen app. Hey, we're also streaming on CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. CBC weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins me now. And Riley, there is a lot going on weather-wise. We've got snow to the north. We got snow to the south. We got warnings, special weather statements. What better way to kick off the 1st of March, right?
March coming in like a lion is what it really is. And we'll get right into it because, I've been a very busy person and a very popular person in the newsroom today with everyone wanting information. So here it is. So snowfall warning still in place for Thompson, Flin Flon, the Lynn Lake region, Gillam, Shamattawa. General 10 to 15 centimeters across northern Manitoba today. Could see some pockets of higher accumulation, but areas like Thompson, maybe another 5 centimeters to come. This snow is moving toward the north as we get through the afternoon today. In the south, we're looking at a mainly sunny sky. A few stray flurries across southern Manitoba into the Interlake, but really nothing to write home about. As we look at the rest of the day today, we see that snow moving out of northern Manitoba, clearing toward a sunny evening and a sunny morning tomorrow. That is the same for us here in southern Manitoba with a mix of sun and clouds first thing in the morning. very quickly. The snowfall warning in Thompson has just ended. So that's how quickly things are changing. That just popped up on my phone as a notification. So that's how quick things are changing. As we get into the later part of Saturday, though, we start to see that area of low pressure, this being categorized as a Montana low, moving into southern Manitoba. So this will begin to spread snow early evening Saturday in areas like Emerson, Morden Winkler, into the Pilot Mound, Killarney, Boissevain, Melita region, spreading further to the north as we get into the overnight period into Sunday morning. Mainly a snow event for the Westman region into the Interlake, but temperatures, I have Winnipeg at a high of -2 on Sunday. So some of this could end up falling as freezing rain or rain. The best likelihood of that, though, comes as we get into the later part of Sunday, into the southeast corner of the province in particular. So here in Winnipeg, as we get through the day on Sunday, we're looking at on and off periods of snow. This is more organized and heavier accumulation as we get through the rest of Sunday, tapering off as we get into Monday. So snowfall accumulation in northern Manitoba, like I said, another 5 centimeters to come, but in southern Manitoba, that snow starts to move in as we get into the day on Sunday. I'm thinking 5 to 10 centimeters for Winnipeg and the surrounding region around the city, more like 10 to 20 centimeters for the Brandon region into the Riding Mountain region. Higher accumulations the further north and the further west you go. So areas like Arborg looking at 10 to 15 into the Peguis region, 10 to 15 as well. So in Winnipeg, we're looking at a high. I've got us at +2 for the afternoon, give or take a few degrees, especially in the downtown. We could see some warmer temperatures at the afternoon today. Brandon at -1 this afternoon. Thompson with snow and -14. Winds also a factor as we get into Sunday, northeast 40 to 60 as we get through Sunday into early Monday. That likely will make driving, especially west and north of the city, quite treacherous. So keep that in mind if you have any travel into the day on Sunday into early Monday. Think about postponing because things are really going to be quite dicey as we get into early Monday morning. -11 for Tuesday and a chance of flurries on Wednesday and -9.
I also want to say, too, that I might be calling you for a forecast
Okay.
because you're not going to be delivering them in person. I mean, not to me anyways, for the next year. I'm glad Riley is here to talk about this because I'm going to get a little emotional. But this is my last Radio Noon here for a whole year.
I can't believe the day has come.
Yes. I'm leaving to go on maternity leave and exciting, sad, scared. But I'm glad that Riley's here to kind of keep me emotionally propped up because I still have 30 more minutes left to do on this show.
Yeah, I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss you too,
For a
Riley.
whole year, I'm going to miss you so much.
Oh, Riley, I love talking, with you and your weather forecasts, even though it's maybe not so great sometimes.
Maybe we're having a baby in a snowstorm here, Marge.
Oh gosh! But
what a Winnipeg thing to do.
I know. I'm gonna miss everyone here, and I'm gonna miss doing the show. And of course, thank you so much for tuning into Radio Noon. But
I'm gonna miss you in the newsroom.
Oh.
We've done everything together in this building. I think.
I know.
I am going to miss you so much, and I can't believe it's for an entire year.
Yes.
I think of it as a very long vacation.
Oh, well, I have a lot of work ahead of me.
You do.
I do, but yeah, I'm going to miss you, Riley. I'm going to miss the folks here.
It's a new chapter in your career.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yes, motherhood. Yeah, so we're going to have some guest hosts filling in starting next week, but I will be back in a year, and I'll be looking forward to being back here on Radio Noon and working with you again, Riley.
And I'm looking forward to some baby news.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to some baby news.
Yes, thank you so much, Riley.
Congrats, Marge.
Thank you.
We'll miss you.
That is CBC weather specialist Riley Lachek. Of course, Riley will have the very latest on everything he's tracking coming up this afternoon on Up to Speed, 3 to 6 o'clock here on CBC Radio 1. And again on CBC Winnipeg News at 6 on CBC Television, streaming on CBC Gem and CBC Manitoba's YouTube channel. It is 12:39 now. Well, the group that runs the Strand Theatre in Melita is turning to social media for help. The Prairie Vision Arts Council is asking the community for input on how to help with slumping attendance numbers. The council, which owns the theater located about 100 kilometers southwest of Brandon, wants to save it, but need ideas on how to. Pat Franklin is the chair of the Prairie Vision Arts Council. Hi, Pat.
Hello.
Hi, tell us more about what did the council post on Facebook this week?
It was just a post just asking for people's opinions on how they felt we could better serve them as far as our movies go, and wait, for an example, what nights might be better nights or what movies they wanted to see.
What are the attendance numbers right now at the theater like?
Well, right now they're quite low. We have moved to Thursdays and Fridays instead of Friday to Saturday, just to see if that would make a difference. And we also have volunteer projectionists, and Thursday nights seem to work better for them. So we're just trying that. But for an example, I believe last Thursday there was just 2 people.
And so what do you think might be contributing to why the numbers are low?
I think it's a combination of many things. Probably all the available screening now that people have in their own homes has made a difference for sure. Sometimes it's easier, and I understand, just to stay home and stream the movies that are out, because all the new ones are very readily available. Some are streamed like even before we have access to them. So that is one thing. We did pretty good for the year following COVID, but I think COVID has changed the amount of new movies that have come out. And most of the answers that people gave us to our post were that there just wasn't available movies that they were interested in seeing right now.
The Arts Council purchased it back in 2011?
We purchased it in 2011, that's right.
Yeah. It's a historic theater in Melita, isn't it?
It is. It's been there a long time. I can't tell you the exact year it was built, but it's been extensively renovated, and it's a lovely building now. We're very proud of it, as well as is the whole community.
So now you've turned to social media for input. What kind of response have you been getting from people about ideas on how to increase those attendance numbers?
Most people that posted back just mentioned that the movies that we're showing right now weren't of interest to them, and they all knew it was no fault of ours, of the theater, because we only have a selection of certain movies that we can choose from. And the list has definitely got smaller since COVID. And sometimes, as I said before, the movies are already streamed before we have access to them. And being a small theater in a small town, our selection is, even that much smaller. We could get some movies, but we'd have to show them 6 or 7 times, which is just not feasible for us. Then one other idea was to perhaps sell an annual ticket for a family or for a single, and maybe if people just had a pass, they would maybe come more often. That was just an idea, or I guess it would give us some upfront money. One was maybe connecting with a book club and doing a movie that matched the book that we're reading that month. So there's been some good feedback.
So everything is on the table then?
Yeah, I would say so. I don't want it to sound like we're going to close the theater. That is not our plan at all. We're just looking for ways to boost our attendance and see where we can go from here.
So what else are you doing to help make the theater viable? It sounds like there are other things that are happening at the Strand to kind of keep it afloat.
Oh, for sure there are. The Prairie Vision Arts Council that owns the theater, our mandate is to bring the arts to our community and surrounding area. So we try to host entertainers that we can. We have the dance group from Melita. They use our theater. They use our stage for their dancing, and they rent the space from us. So we have that. Yeah, we've had fundraisers. We've had like a dinner and dance. We've had in the past what we call, usually around Valentine's Day, we've had a movie and a dinner. So we supply sell tickets, and then we ourselves made the meal and then had the meal, and then went over to the theater for a movie.
Mm-hmm. So what will the Arts Council do then if the numbers continue to be low?
That I can't really answer right now. We'll bring all the replies that we got on our post to our next meeting. We meet the second Monday of the month. We'll bring it to the next meeting, and we'll just start to do discussions and see where it goes. And I'm quite confident that when the movie selection starts to get better and more movies are coming out, that'll make a big difference to us, for sure. We have a great group of volunteer projectionists that volunteer their time to come in and run the movies. And that has been a tremendous help for us, financially, of course. And they come in and they don't just run the movie. They also work the candy counter. They clean up after the movie. So I just need to thank that group of volunteers that have done so much to help us keep our theater afloat.
Pat, thank you so much for speaking with me. Much appreciated. Thank you again.
Well, thank you for being interested in our little small theater in Melita, Manitoba.
That is Pat Franklin, the chair of the Prairie Vision Arts Council, which owns the Strand Theater in Melita.
You are the cottonwood tree, started off small at the edge of a century. Through your veins down into the earth, fed on water and sun. Your flowers will bloom 'neath the crescent moon. You are the willow tree, started off small at the edge of a century. Felt your fingers down into the earth, fed on water and sun. Your boughs will bend to kiss the river's edge. You are the tamarack tree, started off small at the edge of a century. Sent your love down into the earth, fed on water and sun. When you shed your skin, it's winter again. You are the wild oak tree, started off small at the edge of a century. Dug your toes down into the earth, fed on water and sun. When you take your stand, watch o'er this land. You are the giant elm tree, started off small at the edge of a century. Stood your feet on top of the earth, fed on water and sun. When you drop your seed, another tree to feed.
That was Cottonwood by Winnipeg singer-songwriter Madeline Roger. Right now in Brandon, drifting snow, -1, windy as well, too. West-northwest wind gusting to 62. Ice crystals in Churchill at -20. Thompson right now, light snow at -17. And in Winnipeg at the airport, it is 2 degrees with a south-southwest wind right now at 21. People around the world are being encouraged to disconnect from their devices this weekend. The Global Day of Unplugging campaign began in 2009. The idea is to step away from your screens for 24 hours starting tonight, the 1st of March, until tomorrow night. CBC's Blair Sanderson decided to hit the streets to find out if people would be willing to unplug for a whole day.
Hello. Hello there. Do you think you could disconnect, unplug for 24 hours?
Absolutely not.
It's kind of difficult not to have it at times.
I could. I'm not sure I want to.
Maybe.
I'd like to think I could, but would I right now? Probably not.
I think just because it's so interconnected with work and the way that we live now that I need to kind of be connected for part of my work day. You know, there's parts of the evening where I'm disconnected, but I think my work is all connected digitally, so I have to be kind of connected for it.
I'm also a mom to a 4.5-year-old, so I kind of have to be on standby.
Why does that make the phone so crucial?
Well, we co-parent, so he's gone for half the week, so if something were to happen, I'd kind of have to be on standby, you know? I couldn't just disappear for 24 hours.
But yeah, I've noticed at times that, oh my God, I'm on this thing all the time, so... And I'm the older generation, so I can't imagine what it's like for younger kids.
It would definitely be like a challenge. I'd have to prepare myself first.
What would you need to do to prepare?
I have to maybe get some supplies of some tasks and hobbies to do, just ready so that I don't go crazy within the 24 hours. But then if I was ready to cook a certain meal, I would have to look up the recipe beforehand so that I would definitely know what I'm doing. But then I think, yeah, I would be okay if I was prepared.
And now it occurs to me too that all these food delivery apps, those
gone.
would be out too.
Yeah, they're absolutely gone. No Uber Eats, no Skip the Dishes. Yeah, you're on your own.
Would you starve without your devices?
Probably not. All my recipes are on the internet, but for 24 hours, I could just make something up. That would be good.
I'd have to get a lot of my work done, before then. Yeah, and honestly, if I go anywhere, I need my music to walk places without being, anxious. I guess that's a kind of a testament of just my generation.
You bring up a good point that for you to even listen to music, you need your device and the internet because it's all streaming.
Yeah, I even going somewhere else to do something that wouldn't be screen related, I need my music to do that.
It's almost part of who I am as a person, and I would find it very challenging to fully disconnect. It'd be like withdrawal.
My mom would probably freak out. She texts every morning and every evening. So if she didn't hear back from, there has been a time where I didn't respond in 4 hours. I was busy with work, and she called my work, she called my partner, she called everybody. So, it also keeps you connected to family.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you were to take some time off from your devices, you would actually need to let people know.
Yeah, you would have to tell people for sure.
And there's no more of the days I'll meet you at 5 tomorrow at this particular place. That just doesn't happen anymore.
No, now you say, okay, I'm leaving my house. Are you there yet? Oh yeah, I'm in the back. I got a table on the left right when you walk in. You're constantly communicating.
Oh yeah, and if you don't check in with me on the day, I'm not sure it's happening.
Right.
So
even though you have a plan to do something that day, if you don't hear from that person that day, you're thinking, is this all over now?
Without question.
I've even heard people cancel dates or don't show up for dates because they didn't hear from that person the day of, so they just assumed it was canceled.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so we're very connected, that's for sure.
Very connected.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, pleasure.
That was CBC's Blair Sanderson talking to people about whether they could take a 24-hour break from their devices. The Global Day of Unplugging campaign began in 2009. This year, people are asked to give it a try starting tonight, March 1st, and ending tomorrow night. It is 7 minutes now to 1 o'clock. Well, even though he now lives in Ontario, Jason R. Martin's upcoming album is quintessentially Newfoundland. The record features 22 songs he recorded with friends and family back home, including covers of legendary Newfoundland songwriters. Here's an example. This is Jason R. Martin with his take on Roy Payne's City, I Wanna Go Home.
There's no star shining here tonight. Everything is shining from these neon I wanna go home. There's no grass growing on these city streets. There's no friendly faces on the people that I meet. I can stand in a crowd and be all alone. City, I wanna go home. Where a river is a river and a tree is a tree. Where I can find friendly country people like me. Where the whippoorwills sing and the green grass grows. City, I wanna go home. I bought me a ticket on a big Greyhound. Those wheels are humming and I'm homeward bound. Soon I won't ever have to feel alone. City, I'm on my way home. Where a river is a river and a tree is a tree. Where I can find friendly country people like me. Where the whippoorwills sing and the green grass grows. City, I wanna go home. Yeah, city, I've gotta go home. Yeah, city, I'm on my way home.
That was Jason R. Martin with City, I Want to Go Home. 12:56 now. And let's check in with Faith Fundal, host of Up to Speed, to see what's coming up this afternoon. Hi, Faith.
Hello, Marge. Significant delays, years of construction, plus a $73 million price tag. All reasons the mayor of Winnipeg doesn't want to keep Portage and Main closed to pedestrians. He's going to join us in studio for more on his new push on the show this afternoon.
That is definitely a talker for sure. Thanks, Faith.
You can't go just like that.
Oh,
We have people in studio. Why is that, Marge?
Because this is my last Radio Noon for a whole year.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and I couldn't make her cry when we did this at 12:33 already, so we're trying again.
So it's congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh,
Everybody
you
is
so
clapping.
much.
We're clapping.
Oh,
We'll hear that.
you're all so sweet. Thank you.
You'll be desperately missed.
Oh, I'm going to miss all you guys too. Like, it's just, you know, this is coming in and working with such incredible folks every day. And I know it's a change.
It's happening.
You guys are going to make me cry. I'm going to miss this.
There's gonna
think
be
you're great.
Marge-shaped hole in the wall.
Yeah, literally.
In our
Like,
hearts.
Of course, I'll be tuning in and listening to all the shows, but thank you so much.
I hope you do.
It's going to be great. We
Everything
love
you do.
you, and we're happy to see you in a year.
Thank you so much. I love you folks.
And you have a new adventure.
I do.
Yeah. And look how mean we are. The show's not even done yet. Make Marge cry.
Ah, you did it. You made me cry.
We're going to stay here
Congratulations.
until you do your goodbye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all of you, and thank you so much for tuning in to Radio Noon. It's been an absolute pleasure. I want to take this, if I could say it, thank the incredible folks who worked on the show today. Corey Funk, Matt Humphrey, Riley Lachuk, Travis Peterson switching our show on our YouTube channel, our show director May McKillop, show producer is Nellie Gonzalez, senior producer of audio is Leif Larson. I'm Marjorie Dowhouse. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And we'll be here on Monday. It'll just be Emily Brasso hosting, so tune in then.
We're clapping. Here we go.
Hey, Marge.
Coming up next, CBC Podcast Showcase. Have a good one.
Story writer and essayist. I'm defending the future